portrait photography, a series of collaborations with the composer Philip Glass, and restoring cars with his daughter Joanna, who at 14 wasn't yet old enough to drive. She documented their progress restoring a Porsche 914, a 1970s model derided for having the aesthetics of a pizza box, on Instagram, which Facebook had bought in 2012. Joanna's account became moderately successful, and that's when things got a little dark. Most of her followers were enthused about a girl getting into car restoration, but some showed up with rank misogyny, like the guy who told Joanna she was getting attention just because you have tits. "Please don't talk about my underage tits," Joanna Bahar shot back before reporting the comment to Instagram. A few days later, Instagram notified her that the platform had reviewed the man's comment. It didn't violate the platform's community standards. Bahar, who had designed the predecessor to the user reporting system that had just shrugged off the sexual harassment of his daughter, told her the decision was a fluke. But a few months later, Joanna mentioned to Bahar that a kid from a high school in a neighboring town had sent her a picture of his penis via an Instagram direct message. Most of Joanna's friends had already received similar pics, she told her dad, and they all just tried to ignore them. Bahar was floored. The teens exposing themselves to girls who they had never met were creeps, but they presumably weren't whipping out their dicks as they passed a girl in a school parking lot or in the aisle of a convenience store. Why had Instagram become a place where it was accepted that these boys occasionally would, or that young women like his daughter would have to shrug it off? Bahar's old protect and care team had been renamed and reshuffled after his departure, but he still knew plenty of people at Facebook. When he began peppering his old colleagues with questions about the experience of young users on Instagram, they responded by offering him a consulting agreement. Maybe he could help with some of the things he was concerned about, Bahar figured, or at the very least answer his own questions. That was how Arturo Bahar found himself back on Facebook's campus. Eager and highly animated, Bahar's reaction to learning something new and interesting is a gesture meant to evoke his head exploding. He had unusual access due to his easy familiarity with Facebook's most senior executives. Dubbing himself a free-range Mexican, he began poring over internal research and setting up meetings to discuss how the company's platforms could better support their users. The mood of the company had certainly darkened in the intervening 4 years. Yet, Bahar found, everyone at Facebook was just as smart, friendly, and hard-working as they had been before, even if no one any longer thought that social media was pure upside. The company's headquarters, with its free laundry service, cook-to-order meals, on-site gym, recreation, and medical facilities, remained one of the world's best working environments. It was, Bahar felt, good to be back. That nostalgia probably explains why it took him several months to check in on what he considered his most meaningful contribution to Facebook, the revamp of the platform's system for reporting bad user experiences. It was the same impulse that had led him to avoid setting up meetings with some of his old colleagues from the Protect and Care team. "I think I didn't want to know," he said. Bahar was at home when he finally pulled up his team's old system. The carefully tested prompts that he and his colleagues had composed, asking users to share their concerns, understand Facebook's rules, and constructively work out disagreements, were gone. Instead, Facebook now demanded that people allege a precise violation of the platform's rules by clicking through a gauntlet of pop-ups. Users determined enough to complete the process arrived at a final screen requiring them to reaffirm their desire to submit a report. If they simply clicked a button saying "Done," rendered as the default in bright Facebook blue, the system archived their complaint without submitting it for moderator review. What Bahar didn't know then was that 6 months prior, a team had redesigned Facebook's reporting system with the specific goal of reducing the number of completed user reports so that Facebook wouldn't have to bother with them, freeing up resources that could otherwise be invested in training its artificial intelligence-driven content moderation systems. In a memo about efforts to keep the costs of hate speech moderation under control, a manager acknowledged that Facebook might have overdone its efforts to staunch the flow of user reports. "We may have moved the needle too far," he wrote, suggesting that perhaps the company might not want to suppress them so thoroughly. The company would later say that it was trying to improve the quality of reports, not stifle them. But Bahar didn't have to see the memo to recognize bad faith. The cheery blue button was enough. He put down his phone, stunned. This wasn't how Facebook was supposed to work. How could the platform care about its users if it didn't care enough to listen to what they found upsetting? There was an arrogance here, an assumption that Facebook's algorithms didn't even need to hear about what users experienced to know what they wanted. And even if regular users couldn't see that like Bahar could,